Hello,
Hi.
and welcome back to Strong Woman Highs - Life is a Mismash. Smash. At some point, I will say it right. But
We'll
today,
have to get a lot of takes.
it's not that point.
No.
Me and Jenny have decided as well that we're too lazy to try and continuously retake it until it sounds good, so we're just getting on with
It
it.
really doesn't matter.
We don't
Life
care
is
anymore.
full of mistakes. We all make them.
Yeah, and we're
We're
just
not
like,
gonna hide them.
no, we're just actively making them. We're owning them. We're
That's
not.
it.
We aren't learning from them.
No, we're not doing that either.
But we will try at some point. If this podcast takes off and it gets real serious, then maybe we'll make more of an effort. Maybe.
If I have to be serious, does that mean that I can't eat while I'm on the microphone?
Well, it depends,
I
because
think yours is the leader here, isn't it?
is man the leader today?
Yeah, so it shouldn't. This one shouldn't pick up my.
I don't know, because it doesn't look like from the control centre. It doesn't look like either of them are picking up particularly well, but
Excellent.
we don't care anymore. We're not even
No.
doing test runs.
No,
YOLO.
sir.
Sir.
Where do we begin?
Well-
Welcome to our PED talk.
This is going to be the first episode in one of the series of our podcast that we're calling Welcome to our PED Talk, where we're just going to talk about PEDs.
Yeah.
And we're going to, obviously everything that's said is our opinion. Neither of us are medical professionals.
Absolutely not.
We aren't here to educate you and tell you what to do, because you're hopefully all grown adults and you can make your own decisions.
Yes.
But we are here to just spread some of our opinions and our experiences.
Smear some shit.
Yeah. And just tell our opinions and stuff.
That's all a podcast is, isn't it?
Just people who like the sound of their own voices.
Exactly.
Which is exactly why we're doing it. But yeah, so this is episode number 1 of Welcome to our PED Talk. And we decided to do this one today because of the current affairs happening at the moment.
What are they?
So, it has just been the... What's it called? England's Natural Strongest Man competition. And the women's competition is coming up on Sunday.
But there was also the Scottish Natties, wasn't there?
Yeah, the Scottish Natties was on Sunday as well. And the Irish one is...
Either it's been or it's upcoming. It must be.
I don't
upcoming.
think it's been. Sorry, Ireland. We're not up to date.
There's so many of them though.
There's so many
Yeah,
qualifiers.
so they get to do their.
Yeah, I think
Business.
theirs is the same. Is it the same weekend as the England's women's?
I think it might be.
One or the other, I guess. But yeah, so we're going to discuss about this because there's been quite the controversy in the upcoming Natty competitions with certain people calling out other certain people, and obviously we're not going to name names on this podcast because we're not bitches, but I mean, if you want to message us directly, then do it. I'm still not going to tell you.
Those who know already know, and that's fine. That's all that needs to be said. So,
Yeah, because we're not here to sling...
It's all kind of floating around in the clouds, isn't it?
Yeah. So basically, someone's calling out people for competing in natty comps that maybe shouldn't, but I guess that's personal choice. So we're going to discuss a little bit about it, aren't we?
Yes.
So we'll start with the basics. Obviously, if you're listening to this podcast, I'd hope you already know what natty is. But if you
What
don't...
strongman is.
We haven't got time for that. If you don't know what strongman is, then
Get out.
go home. Or stick around and you'll probably get a weird gist of it.
It is for weirdos.
It is, yeah, mainly for weirdos.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're not weird, you can join in. You might just find it a bit weird.
Yeah, I think so.
But basically, a natty is someone who doesn't take any performance-enhancing drugs.
Or never has.
Or never
Let's be clear on that point.
Well, here lies the point of contention, because is it the decision that makes you a natty, or is it the actual taking of the dregs? So in my head, being a natty is you don't take performance enhancing drugs. So you don't take drugs that would make you, well, all performance enhancing drugs aid recovery, don't they?
Yeah.
But then here's your argument, is paracetamol a performance enhancing drug? Because technically it's aiding your recovery.
It must be. Ibuprofen.
Where's the line?
But, yeah, so generally speaking, if we can generalise performance enhancing drugs, like, there's a big spectrum of them, but it's usually like the case of anabolic steroids that changes your kind of genetic makeup slightly. It does affect your androgen, endocrine system. So the ability for you to produce your own hormones naturally. It kind of enhances, it boosts things up, and you don't produce them naturally anymore because you're taking them synthetically. So it is of my opinion, so self-confessed not natty right here, Jenny Todd. I took gear in 2014, so I was like, unfortunately, 1 year into the sport, but it was of my opinion that the people that were beating me, it wasn't down to skill and ability, it was down to the fact that they were not on a level playing field with me, so I wanted to even things up. I did my own research, and it wasn't suggested to me by anybody else but myself, just purely because I was aware of what other people were doing and taking too far, that I would look to see where I could take it without taking it too far, in the hope to boost my performance ever so slightly. Because, you know, if you look at what I've done in the sport, I came onto the scene and basically shot everybody on my way to the top. So I won pretty much everything that I did. I can't put it down to ped use, although they did certainly help, but it was a much smaller pool of athletes that were involved in the sport then. It wasn't as popular with women as it was with men, but it generally wasn't popular as much as it is now. So there was much less people involved. There were less people that I was competing against, so it's going to be a lot easier for you to win if you've got like a little level up on people with regard to skill. And this is really what I put my own performance down to. It was an absolute ferocity to try and gain as much skill in each event as possible, because I'm a tall person. I'm taller than the average female, so carrying not an awful lot of musculature on my frame, and being in a middleweight weight class, there were people that were far stockier than me, carrying a lot more muscle mass and able to produce a lot more force. So how could I like level up slightly? I'll work on my skill. I was really, really down to the T with nutrition, which is a huge, huge, huge game changer for anybody that's involved in strength sports or even just lifting in the gym. Like if you're putting suboptimal fuel into your car's engine, like how do you expect it to perform? It's gonna rattle like a fucking box of spanners, isn't it? If you don't get it serviced, if you don't top up the oil and stuff like that. Like that to me is what nutrition is. It's putting oil in the fucking right component in the engine. It's putting a decent amount of fuel in a decent quality fuel in your fuel tank. And generally just looking after the fucking vehicle. So the body is the machine, just like a car is. So if you treat your car like shit, it's gonna break. Or it's just not going to be as good. So nutrition, skill acquisition, programming was on point. I really worked hard at trying to figure out how to get the best out of myself. And yeah, I took drugs, but it wasn't a huge amount. I took one particular substance for the 4 years that I was quite competitive, and I can't honestly say that I took it as far as many, many other women have taken it.
Yeah.
that I was up against.
Yeah.
Because you can see the virilization in their faces, you can hear it in their voices.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that. I was quite careful with what I was doing, to the point where, you know, a lot of people, if you're listening to this and you follow me, either me or Becca, you'll have seen the post that I put up about, hi, you alright, mate?
Short introduction from dog.
So the post that I put up a couple of days ago about, you know, just a little message, if your coach is bringing up performance enhancing drugs without you previously bringing it up, like if you didn't ask the question, they bring it up and they suggest that you take it, that, you know, they're a charlatan basically. So that there is no place for that.
So what I was going to go back to then is, one, what was the point that made you make the decision to take performance enhancing drugs, and where did you get your information? Like, where did you research it? Where did you look into it? Because I feel like you're the sort of person that would have been like, I'm not just going to take whatever someone's saying.
Yeah.
You would have spent some time looking into it.
Yeah, I had a little look into it. So it's quite popular with bodybuilders. The particular substance that I was taking was Anavar, and that's quite well known for not having as dramatic androgenic effects. So that's basically like the masculinization, the deepening of the voice. I've got quite a deep voice at the moment.
Neither of us are great for this. Yeah, we've both got really deep voices.
Yes. So the symptoms you want to watch for are deepening of the voice and generally being a bit of a gadgie. So we are.
It's not really selling it great for us.
Feminine of females anyway, but yeah, there's more to it though. You know, like, sorry to say the word, people, but clit enlargement. You're not going to see that walking around on the street unless they've taken a buttload of tren. But, you know, like one of the symptoms that I suffered from was like quite a lot of acne around my jaw. So it does change like the thickening of your jaw if you take too much, but I think that was kind of a symptom of that starting to happen, and I kind of just was in check, you know, when I started getting a real spotty jaw, I would kind of hold back on the dosage a little bit.
Yeah.
Other things are like male pattern baldness and thickening of pores.
Yeah.
So I looked into it, and basically Anavar was the one that I was indicated towards on the tinterwebs, and it was just simply a case of like, you've got to use minimal effective dosage.
Yeah.
So start low and see what happens, and that's all I did. Like at the time I could only get hold of 15 milligram tablets, and dosing those appropriately is quite fucking difficult, because now you can kind of get hold of 10s, but splitting a 50 into quarters is quite a difficult thing to do. Like in any tablet form, at some point you're going to get rough edges and some of it's just going to turn to powder. So it was kind of like I started on 25 milligrams and just stayed there for the whole course. So an 8-week prep or a 12-week prep to a competition, I'd start at that and keep it constant throughout the whole prep, and then cut it out as soon as I was done, and take the amount of the research that I did. It's just bro science, isn't it? There are studies used on it because the drug was actually created for cancer patients, you know, people with muscle wasting diseases as well. So it's like, that's why it is on the black market, because it was designed with this in mind, and that was the side effect that they found was prevalent. So it's like not a dramatic side effect, but if you take enough of the stuff, it is gonna, like, that's gonna increase the amount of side effects that you get from it. So that was the big thing that I was very, very aware of. Like, I've got to keep a tab on this, otherwise I'm gonna look like a fucking goblin.
Which is what no one's aiming
not
for.
What I wanted it to enhance my game a little bit, put on a little bit of meat, and just do well in my sport and enjoy it.
Hello, we're back from a little short break where I shut the dog out because it's ruined the entire podcast. But again, like we said, we're here to make mistakes. We're not re-recording it. And so if it sounds shit, sorry.
But dogs.
It's life. This is life.
It is a mishmash.
A mishmash. So, we were talking about your use of PEDs.
Yeah.
Do you regret it at all?
No. No. It's really fun. Like, I don't condone the use. Like, I'm not trying to put a positive spin on it, but I had a good time because I'm a balanced human being. I don't suffer from big mood swings. I don't have any mental health issues. I've never suffered from depression.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, taking that all of that into account, I was a young person and I was in good health. Like, I didn't see the problem with it as long as I was careful and I was monitoring things as I was going through it. And so, no, I don't regret it at all. I wasn't participating in anything that I shouldn't have.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, there was one occasion in the first year, I think after my first cycle, I did a powerlifting competition. It was an IPF one, but it was just a local one, like a qualifier for a Brits. And I got a qualification spot, but I never took it because I just thought, I feel like absolute dog shit after doing that. Like, I won it hands down. And everybody else is just being really open and honest about their own gains. And then I've waltzed in and I just felt like an absolute buffoon. So I never pursued that again. And that was kind of like a turning point of, well, I've done this now and I have put some meat on my bones, and that has set me ahead of everybody else that has done it naturally. So there is no place for me to participate in any kind of tested sports. Even though I would come up clean on a drug test, that's not the point. To me, it's the point that I've worked to gain muscle through synthetic means. And yes, it wasn't dramatic. It's not like I came out looking like King Kong. But like, it might have only put about 2-3 pounds of muscle on me, but it's enough. And I'd say, like, one of the biggest side effects of taking PEDs is the head gains that you get. Like, it does give you a mental attitude of, like, tunnel vision. And, you know, like, this ruthless attitude of trying to pursue greatness. And, you know, you work harder in the gym because testosterone is a little bit higher than what you were used to. But I'll go back to the same point. I don't regret it because I was careful. And I'm a balanced person. Like, I'm not a psycho. Yeah. And if you have any doubt about your ability to maintain, like, a clear, composed mind before you take drugs, you shouldn't fucking touch them. You should never touch them. Just don't bother.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of points to take into consideration before you're going to make that decision. So I know you don't regret it, but do you wish you'd waited until a later point in your lifting career?
Yeah, I wish I waited a little bit longer. So I got into the sport in 2013 and I started taking PEDs in 2014. But I was strength training, like structured strength training, for 2 years prior to that anyway. Yeah. So I had like 2 years under my belt, 3 years under my belt, of progressive strength training, but that's like nothing. Nothing really.
In the world of strength training.
Waited at least a couple more years, but to me it was like, it was go time.
Yeah.
The time was appropriate. I was doing well in the sport, but I was just missing out. Yeah. It only in one competition, this is the thing. Like, it was just one competition. I was like, fuck her. I can't believe she beat me by like a point. So I'm going to take drugs. I can't have this.
I'm better than this.
Like, after that, I think I came second one more time after that, and everything else that I competed in, besides an open weight competition, I won. Yeah. Hands down. Like, I was leagues above everybody else. Yeah. It's not like I was leagues above everybody else because I looked like Arnold Schwarzenegger against a load of women. No. I looked like I was on a level playing field with everybody else.
Yeah, and I also think as well it's important to point out, like you said it previously, that when you took peds, it gave you like tunnel vision, and I think it's not tunnel vision, it's almost that you took it more seriously.
Yeah.
Because like you said, you'd already ticked off your nutrition, your sleep, your like training.
Yeah.
You had all those things ticked off, so then taking peds was your like the next normal step to take.
Yeah.
But that then meant that you were going to take it more seriously
Yeah,
because
totally.
you were aware of the risks.
And like, even though nutrition was already on the point, I knuckled down even harder.
Yeah.
Like, there was no drinking. I didn't drink any alcohol when I was on a cycle.
Yeah.
I would always take liver and kidney support. I would always make sure that I had sufficient amount of water in. Like, I nailed 2 litres a day.
Yeah.
Making sure I'm flushing everything out, like, nicely. Everything's running like clockwork. And, yeah, like, it's as if, like, the act of taking the tablets, because I took the oral tablets, like I'm not into injections, and that's probably what kept me away from anything else, because anything else that was available was in an injectable form, and I'm just no. That to me is like stepping over a line that you're not really gonna come back from.
Yeah.
Because then it's like open to any substance. But yeah, so it's questionable whether the Anavar that I was taking was just Anavar as well. Cause I think that's an important point to touch on, because Anavar in itself is quite an expensive compound to come across. And if you're going to like Dave down the gym, who's told you, oh, you can get you this, that, and the other really cheap. If he ever tells you that Anavar is cheap, it's not Anavar.
No.
Like,
yeah.
it's got something cheaper in it to make it give you the effects of Anavar, but you're going to get the other effects as well.
I think this is a big problem just in general, because it's obviously all like black market stuff.
Not regulated.
Yeah,
so
it's not regulated.
That's a huge danger of getting involved in it in the first place. And if you don't trust your source, like, you can't even, like, trusting your source is fine, but you can't trust the person that's been mixing it in their fucking bathtub.
Yeah, exactly. This is the thing. And I think if you are going to make that decision, you need to be aware of that risk, that, like, you might think, oh, I'm just taking Anavar, it can't be that dangerous. It could be something completely different.
Aye.
And you're not going to know that until the changes have been made.
Yeah.
But, yeah, interesting. Anything else to add?
No, I think that's it. Like, safety. If you've got a sound mind, I don't condone the use of it at all, unless you really know yourself and you've done the research and you understand the implications of taking it. And you also, like I'll reinforce this, you understand that you have taken a step out of the zone of being able to compete in tested federations in any sport, because you've changed your body. You've changed your hormone structure, and you are, whether you like it or not, you are in a different playing field now. So if you've ever run a course, I'll touch on the subject of a couple of people that were like threatened to be called out because their old coach talked them into taking drugs for a photo shoot, for a transformation photo shoot, and they kind of felt pressured into it. Like, that's fair enough. They only took it for, allegedly, they only took it for like a couple of days or a couple of weeks. That's not long enough to make any
actual changes.
Effect. So that's sound. But if you've ran a full course, just one, that's enough.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be participating in any tested sport.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you, but I think we will go back and touch on the current affairs point again, because I have a few different opinions to that.
Well, you're the yin to the yang, so you go. What's your opinion of it? Why are you so natty, Becky?
Well, yes. So I am a natty, and mainly because I don't really know. I'm a very naive person, which I think will surprise people. But like when we were kids at school and we go to house parties, like everyone would be on ketamine and I wouldn't have realised this. Like, I'm that person. I've just been drinking like fucking a bottle of Lambrini and being like, oh, this is so much fun. And then I'm like, hang on a minute, what's everyone else doing?
They're melting.
Yeah, so like I feel like I just missed out on a lot of the like drug stuff, and my opinions have changed obviously over the years, and like I'm not gonna poo-poo on anybody. And again, like I'm very much, it's your own personal choice, and I've never said never. Like, I've always been that way inclined. I'd never say never. But in my opinion at the moment, this is a sport that I do for fun, that I pay to do, and at best, at this moment in time, I can win plastic trophies. And for me, that's not enough of a gain to put my health at potential risk.
Yeah.
So the risks still outweigh the benefits for me, and that's why I wouldn't take PEDs at the moment. But it's really tricky, isn't it? Because like I've thought about it loads, absolutely loads. But again, like I would really struggle with the virilization, and I think that's one of the main things. Like I've had a few like little mental health dips over the years, and I don't think my mind's sound enough for me to take that. Like
Yeah.
I've got a lot of stuff going on. Not that I've got mental health problems at the moment. I will put that out there. I'm pretty sound of mind at the moment, but like I just wouldn't want to put myself at any more risk of potentially making it worse. And like, I don't feel like I need it as well.
No.
I think that's a big point. Like, and I
You're
think,
doing really, really well on the untested scene.
yeah,
Without taking drugs.
yeah,
So now with the existence of UKNS, like that has grown so quickly.
massive.
And that has been a key component in this whole conversation, because like without that there's no real other choice other than participate against people who take drugs and you just be the goodie.
100%.
And you just don't do it.
Yeah, and while I like agree that you can 100% be natural and compete in the untested, like we've got obviously Chloe, Annabelle, all them lot, like it's totally doable. It is nice to have a fair playing field.
Absolutely.
Like it is nice to have that backup, because I mean before that, what did we have? Like I'm not going to slate other federations, but the other federations were just expensive and not the best.
It follows WADA as well, and if anybody's been paying attention to strongman over the last 12 months or even just 3 months, somebody being banned for taking an inhaler for their asthma. Like, they took too much asthma inhaler, so they failed the drugs test. I can't support somebody like that. I can't do it.
Asthma attack.
I have asthma as well.
Asthma attack or
I had an
natty?
asthma attack. Just so that I can pass a test.
Yeah, this is the thing, isn't it? Asthma attack or be a pure natty. Like, no one cares. But again, like, that WADA thing's so ridiculous. Like, certain, like, pre-workouts you can't take. Which...
Cannabis. If cannabis shows up in your system, I can't live for shit when I've had a smoke.
Well, this is the thing, that's that shit, like, what's her name? Sha'Carri Richardson. You know, the Olympic sprinter?
Yeah.
She got done for marijuana, didn't she? And you're like, mate, that's not... It's not performance enhancing.
No.
It might.
It might reduce inflammation, but ibuprofen does this.
Exactly, and it's not doing it to a higher level than ibuprofen is. And ibuprofen, I'm pretty sure you're allowed to take. So that in itself is ridiculous. But I mean, the legalization of marijuana is a topic for another day. But back to the subject at hand. So if we're then going to discuss, going back to what you said before, Jenny, about people, if you've taken a cycle, you should have like got the morals and made the decision that you're not going to compete in a natural federation. So now we're going back to people who allegedly have said they've been pressured into taking PEDs and have only taken very small amounts, very small doses. So from speaking, I feel like I've got a really grey area opinion on this because I can see it from too many angles and I can't make my mind up on how I feel about it. But from speaking to other people who are also competing on the natties, there feels like there's quite a strong opinion of if you've made that decision, regardless of whether it was an informed decision or not, you've made that decision to not be a natty and therefore you shouldn't compete in the natties, even if you haven't taken enough of the PED for it to have made a physiological difference.
Okay.
So what do you think to that?
Well, I think peer pressure can speak volumes here, and there are plenty of heroin addicts out there who got pressurised into taking heroin And
Yeah.
like, once a heroin addict, you're always a heroin addict, no matter how clean you've been for however long.
Yeah.
And that only came from somebody talking you into it and saying, hey, it's all right, everybody's doing it. This is cool. Let's go find the dragon together. Like, this has happened to me. I haven't taken heroin, but like, I started smoking when I was in cadets, and I was about 13 years old because somebody said, hey, everybody else is doing it.
Yeah.
Here you go. I have asthma. Like, what was I thinking?
The worst
I
choice.
deeply regret this because, like, yes, I'm addicted to nicotine now, and there is nothing like. I'm a weed smoker, so I can roll up a joint, and it is not the same with anything else in it but weed and tobacco. If I do like a blunt, it's not the same effect. I don't like it. I love it, but it just doesn't have the same kick like it does with tobacco in it, and it's just like I will never feel satisfied again smoking something that doesn't have tobacco in it. But that came at a time in my life when I was like very easily influenced, and if I care about the opinion of somebody enough, and this is like a huge point, if you care about the opinion of somebody so much that you trust their judgment and they're pushing you into something, like, I know for a fact that a lot of my clients, like, I have a huge responsibility on my shoulders.
Yeah.
Because if I ask them to do anything, they'll say yes, sir, and they'll do it. And like, I could either be evil or I could be here for good, and I only care about their best intentions. That's me. I don't want them to. I've never turned onto the subject of performance enhancing drugs with any of my clients unless they have asked me the question, what do you think about this?
Yeah.
I will always open up a chat and bring the subject up. Have you ever? Because it's important to me to understand where their point of view is on this subject when I'm bringing them on board. Because if they're gonna like take my name and carry my name into a drug tested competition, and then I know that they've taken drugs in the past, I can't stand for that. Like, I'm gonna say to them, hey, this is not cool.
Yeah.
Like, look at everybody else; they're clean as a whistle, and no matter what you think of whatever you took, or how much of a difference it made to your performance, I don't care. Like, this is not fair, and I will have that conversation with somebody. So the weight on the shoulders of a coach is really important. Like, they have such a responsibility because literally, like, I say jump and you say how high.
Yeah.
Like, this is how much trust your clients put into you. It's not just financial, it's like they trust your judgment and they trust your point of view. And usually, like, you can kind of, you can see their, like, for instance, music taste. You can see their music taste change ever so slightly if you're very, like, influential with music, and like, music's a big part of my life, so I attract a lot of people who are into heavy metal and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So if you're like, and this is, I'll wrap it up because I'm waffling now. But to cut a long story short, I absolutely agree with somebody who's been pressurized by their coach into taking something, and then they changed their minds. Like, they weren't sure about it in the first place, but they trusted the judgment of the person that they looked up to in a position of authority. As like this is a leader role. They're in a point of leadership here. So it's like, you can convince anybody to do anything, and that's exactly what I think has happened. That they was completely convinced, and then they deeply regretted it afterwards. Like, how could I be so stupid? How could I be so naive about this and allow somebody else to convince me to do something that I didn't feel was right in the first place? But we're all human. And we're all thick as fuck. And, you know, we're allowed to make mistakes, but, you know, you're only allowed to make that mistake for a short amount of time in a small window. If you take it full course and you do a 8 to 12 week course of gear, like, it's game over.
Your decision's made.
You can't do it. Like, if we look at, like, WADA rules, and it depends on the federation, doesn't it? But you can get banned from the Olympics for failing a drugs test, and you're banned for a certain length of time, and then you're allowed to participate again. So, like, how far do we take it? It's down to the individual.
Well, so this is the problem, isn't it? Because, like, realistically, you could be natty for what, a year, 2 years?
I am now. Because
Yeah.
I haven't taken it since Europe. So
100%.
I
So
would be clean as a whistle
you
now.
could compete
I
in the
could jump into
UKNS now.
England's UKNS next weekend. And I wouldn't fucking win. It would be really embarrassing. So I wouldn't be playing that. Jack shit.
I know. Well, this is the problem, isn't it? Because, like, I just don't think there's been set, like, guidelines for people. I would hope that the majority of people are going to have morals enough that if you've taken gear in the past and you know you've had physiological changes that have happened over a series of months, even if you're natty for a year, 2 years, 3 years, you've still had that benefit. It goes into the whole argument of, like, transgender athletes, which we're not going to get into because that's just
my God.
pile of terror. But maybe at some point. But it's the same sort of thing. You've had physiological changes, you've had the benefit from it, regardless of whether you're natty or not now and for how long of a period. That choice has already been made. But going back to the, like, coaches telling athletes to take gear. So this is where my problem lies with my grey area opinion, which is why I don't have the opinion, I think, of... Well, there's a few reasons I don't think I have a solid black and white opinion on this. One of them is obviously, if these people have made this decision coming from a person of trust that also has a power imbalance, because that's a coach and athlete relationship, is there is a power imbalance.
Yeah.
And especially, I think if that coach is a male and that athlete is a female, that power imbalance is even higher. Then is that decision that athlete has made an informed decision or a coerced decision?
It's coerced.
Yeah, because this is what I feel like. Because although there's the argument that you could make an informed decision, like, everyone has the ability to go out and research stuff. Like, that's the great thing about the internet. It's fucking free and everything's on there. But realistically, there isn't that much information on females taking PEDs online. No. There's enough if you're sort of medically minded to maybe make some potentially slightly informed decisions. But realistically, a lot of what everyone's working off, like you've said before, is anecdotal evidence from other people who've taken PEDs.
Like, this is the living study. Like,
yeah.
The sport of strongwoman is the living study of what works and what doesn't work, and, you know, what takes you too far and what doesn't.
Yeah.
So I know it's a difficult subject to talk about because there are sponsorships, and it is directly incentivized to pretend that you're a natural athlete.
Well, I think as well because it's so stigmatized.
Yeah, it is. Like, it's a strength sport,
and everyone's doing it. Like, this is, I think, the naivety of the general public, especially when it comes to, like, the big lads, like the open boys. They're like, oh, well, they don't talk about well, they're not going to talk about taking drugs, are they?
No, they're not. But, you know, if you sat them down and had a nice conversation with them, they'd probably tell you the truth.
Yeah.
They'd probably open up about it.
100%.
And I'm being very open and honest about my use here because I don't have a sponsor. I don't give a flying fuck.
I make my own money.
If doesn't like what I do, like, if any of my clients, absolutely, like, I fully understand if you thought that I was a natural athlete and you came on board and thought, like, I'm gonna get gains like Jenny. First of all, I'd say, like, how naive are you to think that you could actually duplicate what somebody else has done who's got an entirely different genetic makeup to you, and a different build and a different life. You know, all of these things come together and make the person. Like, you cannot, unless you are two identical twins, you cannot be exactly the same as somebody else. So you can't get the gains that I had, but you can get your own gains, and that's absolutely fine. So whatever, Trevor, if you don't want to work with me, that's cool. Like, I'll see you later and I'll find more people. But, like, nobody's holding a gun to my head and saying that I'm not allowed to talk about it. I don't work for anybody else. I work for myself. And I don't see any bad to come of this, only good. Because I'm being open and honest about it. I've opened up a platform for women to approach me and speak to me about this topic.
Yeah.
In private is absolutely fine. Like, I'm not going to spill beans about it because, you know, who follows me on Facebook? My mum. My old school teachers.
Yeah.
I don't want them to paint a different view of me. Like, that wouldn't be cool. but this is what I've done. I've told you what I've done, and I'm happy to chat about it in private, in like a workshop setting. If gyms wanted to hire me for a seminar, I'd happily discuss the topic in a Q&A section. And that's cool. Like, I think that it's important that I put my name across and I make this a safe place to talk about. But you know, I can only talk about what I've taken.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you anything else about anybody else, because that's their private conversation to have and for you to bring up with them. But I would just say that I'll point out that there's a lot of really neat women in this sport.
Yes.
Who do take drugs, so I'm not going to tell you who and what they take, but they're very open if you're just private about it, because, you know, like, they've got families, they've got children, they don't want to portray to their children what this kind of, you know, taking substances. You know, it changes people's opinion. It's like the whole... it's a touchy subject, but the topic of abortion. Like, some people are really strongly opposed to abortions, and some people are really like, you know, it's my fucking body and I can do what I want with it. You know, whatever your opinion is fine, but if somebody... You can't blame somebody for keeping it a secret and pretending, or just not answering the question. When they've taken a substance because they don't want their family and their friends to know about it.
It's a very personal choice. Like, it's a very personal choice, and people don't need to tell you.
They don't, and they're participating in a sport where it's not tested. So
so it doesn't really matter.
It's a given that the majority are taking it if they're like, should we say, smart or stupid enough.
Yeah.
Or, you know, like they're just playing the game. That's all it is.
Yeah, 100%.
You can't blame them for that.
And I think as well, like, the whole hope of, like, you talking very openly and honestly about it, and me being able to ask you, like, a load of questions about it. And obviously we're going to try and get other guests on and stuff, but it's more just so we can get a bit of, like, information out there that as well is from females.
Absolutely.
Because I feel like a lot of this gets taken over by men.
I could probably talk about, like, a handful of people that are women and that have had advice from men. Taking the opinion of a man, what you're taking there is their opinion of what the substance does to another male, because they've had experience with it, but they do not know what that's going to do to a woman who is not used to that level of testosterone floating around in their body.
And I think this is a huge point to make as well, that a lot of these, like, PD gurus on Instagram...
Like, fuck off, you're not a doctor.
They're not medical professionals. You
just took gear from the age of 18, and you don't even know how your own testicles work. Like,
exactly.
This is obscene. You cannot be an expert in a drug that's illegal...
Yeah, that's had no... And this is the thing, there's
you have no medical degree.
No, and there's no scientific evidence behind any of this either. Like, nothing. There's been no studies done on, like, PDs and how much they affect women within strength sports. Because, one, it would never get passed as, like, an ethics committee.
No, absolutely not.
And, like, so anything that they're saying, oh, this is completely safe, this is 100% harm-free, nothing can happen... It's never true. Doesn't matter what they're telling you about it. It's not going to be true. So just be aware when you're listening to these people. They might spout all this information, have all their little medical
smart words,
science words.
Have a little PDF to show you, or a little PowerPoint presentation. But make an informed choice. Look at the research and speak to women. Reach out to women.
I think this is our most important point. Yeah,
I did it. I spoke to people about it once I was, like, into it.
Yeah,
and I would bring the subject up. Like, this is always the good starter. It's like, hey, I take Anavar. Are you okay to talk about this? Like, I'm just really curious to know, like, what you've done and how you found it.
Yeah.
And just be really open and honest about it. And if they say, no, I'm natty, then you can either believe them or not.
Yeah, but that's their choice to tell you.
Something else, but there's plenty of helpful women out there that are happy to talk about it, as long as you're not going to brandish it on social media.
Well, this is how I've got all of my knowledge. Like, I've spoke to loads of people about it and asked questions and just said, like, look, I've thought about this. What do you think? What's been your experience with this? Like, that's your most straightforward way to ask. And if people don't want to talk about it, you have to take the L and go, okay, that's absolutely fine. Don't be offended. Don't be a little bitch about it. Just fucking carry on. Ask the next person. Like, it's not that hard to do, but just be super careful about what you're fucking reading online and what you're looking at online.
Yeah,
Like,
because there's a load of bollocks online as well.
yeah, and we don't want to come across as like, well, I don't want to come across as like, please be careful, everybody. I'm a teacher now.
Seriously, like,
But
so
it's
many people
annoying.
Get it wrong.
Well, I think this is what's the
And
annoying
I think that
thing.
like, I've done quite well with this to not make it like overtake. Like, a few people from that post messaged me afterwards and said, "I'm so pleased you brought that up because I always thought you were natty." I'm
Yeah.
Like, first of all, that's an awful thing to say.
What a burn.
So offended that I don't look strong enough to look like a tape. But yeah, you're right. I do look
Thanks,
natty,
guys.
But that's the fact that I don't have long-term side effects from it. Like, I have built a good amount of musculature, and if I trained really hard and ate the right things, all that, like, it'll kind of come back a lot quicker.
Yeah.
And that's cool, but you know, you don't see it because I didn't take it too far. I was smart about it, and
Yeah.
minimal effective dosage.
Yeah.
Like,
main
don't
words.
Take it too far.
The main takeaway
My
from
God.
today, just, yeah. I think as well, like, an important point that I want to make out is that in my head, PEDs are a last resort.
Yeah.
Like,
Nail all the other things. You have no idea how much impact your nutrition makes on your fucking training.
100%.
Performance. Like, more than anything. If you eat garbage and you take Tren and fucking Deca and testosterone, you're gonna look like a walking garbage can.
yeah.
You're gonna pass
Yeah.
out after every event.
Yeah.
And you know the saddest thing is watching somebody who is so virilized that performs like an absolute fucking amateur.
Yeah,
That is so
100%.
embarrassing to
You've
see.
made such a big sacrifice to yourself by doing that
And you're
and
not
making that
even
decision, and you're not reaping any of the rewards from it.
But let's face facts, like, some of you are not going to do well in the sport as well.
Well, this is just
and it
life.
doesn't matter how many drugs you take, you're still not going to do well because you're not genetically gifted. Like, it is a case of talent and genetic gift.
I agree.
That comes into play.
I agree a little bit, but I also agree that you can just put the hard work in, and there's always avenues to be explored. Like, I'm not going to bullshit. I think I'm probably pretty naturally, like, gifted.
I think you are.
I've come from farm strong,
Yeah.
so my nutrition has been garbage.
Yeah.
Absolute bumholes garbage. Like, my plan for losing weight is that I just stop eating. I just take all my meals out and have one meal a day instead. And like, I'll do a 24-hour fast, or I'll like work out and be like, I'll have a chocolate bar and then I won't eat my tea.
So how do you feel now that you're actually dialing in your nutrition? Like,
Completely
how's training
different.
feeling for you?
Completely different. Like, I've gone with Bex Company, shout out, for my nutrition, just to sort of give me a better idea and have someone that's accountable to like actually eat like a sensible adult. And it's made a huge difference. Like, I thought I was good before, and this year I feel like I'm going to be at another level. I know I'm going to be at another level.
Yeah.
My training feels better. Like, I said to Bex when I first started with her, I was really struggling because I was eating before I trained, and I used to just not eat
Yeah.
and then train. Every training session I did pretty much, like, since I started, was basically fasted.
Yeah.
And the first couple of weeks, I'm not gonna lie, it was terrible. Like, I felt like I was gonna be sick or shit myself every training session. And now I go into training sessions and I'm like, I could just keep going.
Yeah.
A 4-hour training session, I'm like, yeah, piss. Let's carry on.
Food is fuel.
Massively. And it's
makes
made
a
such a huge difference. And like, then I know, like, even when, so I've got my nutrition dialed in now. It's not 100%, definitely not. There's still room for improvement. My sleep's getting better. My technique is now something that I'm like massively focusing on. I'm like, I've not hit a plateau. Like, this is what annoys me as well about strength sports. When people are like, oh, well, I've just hit a plateau. You were like a year in, mate.
Yeah.
Doesn't exist.
No.
Doesn't exist. Work on something else. Work on your sleep. Work on your nutrition. Work on your technique. Before you think, oh, I've hit a plateau in my deadlift, I'm just going to take some PEDs instead and make it a bit easier. No. There's other options first to explore. And I think until you've made that, like, exploration of these options, then make your informed decision.
Yeah.
That's my 2 pence anyway.
So many pennies thrown around there.
That was a lot of pennies. We've been going for nearly an hour.
Have we? Okay. Well, should we silly goose it? Have we talked about everything that we wanted to talk about drugs?
Well, I think as well.
We've covered all the topics that we wanted to on the board.
Yeah, we did have to write a whiteboard so that we would keep in at least some sort of form of structure.
We can't be trusted to remember all of the things.
Absolutely not. No, and I think as well, like, it's been left quite open-ended for, like...
More discussion
to be made, yeah. And I think as well, when we post this, whenever it comes out, hopefully at the weekend, obviously, I'm not bothering making its own Instagram page or anything like that, but if you do have any, like, actual questions or you want us to talk about certain stuff...
Drop us a DM and we'll put it in the bucket.
Yeah, and we'll add it to our list of things to discuss, because I think it'll be interesting, and we're hoping to get, like, some other guests on and stuff and get other people's opinions. And, yeah, just see how it goes.
Yeah, just be chill. Talk. Come on.
But, yeah, we're going to have a little short break, and then we'll be back for some silly goosing.
Silly goose.
We're back from our amateur hour break. And the silly goose question we have from today is, do you think Beyonce has ever been to Greggs?
I think she might have.
I personally don't think she will have herself been into a Greggs.
Might have been brought to her.
Yeah, I would be surprised if she hasn't tried a Greggs. Because I feel like if you went to the UK, especially if you're driving around,
They're in the airports.
Yeah, you can't, literally, like... Wherever you are, you're probably no further than, 10, 15 miles from a Greggs, I would say.
Yeah.
If you were going in a straight line, we're not talking middle of the moors.
Not the Highlands in fucking Scotland.
Yeah, no, we're counting them out.
But in most places, certainly in England.
Yeah, if you're in a populated area, you're going to be close to a Greggs.
Jump in a car. Let's go.
So she must have seen them driving around and be like,
so that curiosity would be like, hey, my personal assistant, can you go, like, see what that's about?
Get me a Greggs.
Yeah.
I was going to follow up this question with, what do you think Beyonce would order from Greggs? But I don't know Beyonce, so I can't speak for her.
It's difficult though, isn't it? Like, what is on the order? There's donuts. She's had those before. She would want something different, wouldn't she?
You'd have to get her, if you were Beyonce's personal assistant, right, and you were trying to give the best Greggs experience that you could give, what would your options be? Not your personal favourites, we'll come on to that next. But if you were a personal assistant and you were like, I really want Beyonce to like Greggs, what are you going to pick? I'll give you 4 options you can give her to give her a full all-rounder of Greggs. Not including drinks.
No. Personal preference, you can get hold of anything.
Agree.
To drink in there.
Just food.
Yeah. What's yours?
I asked you.
You just said, I'll give you 4
I'm
options.
sure I asked you what you would give her.
You said, though, like, physically it came out of your mouth as...
Roll the tape back.
I will give you 4 options.
Yeah, I'll give you 4 options, as in you need to pick the 4 options.
That's not how that was worded. You need to think better about your questions. But I would get a cheese and bean melt.
Shout.
A chicken bake.
Controversial.
A steak bake. And a sausage roll.
Yeah.
So she's got some melty, yummy, hot things.
Yeah.
And then she's got, like, the creme de la creme, the sausage roll.
Yeah, so my choices would be obviously sausage roll, but it would have to be warm. If it was cold, I wouldn't dare take it to her. It has to be warm. And then Yum Yums, because although she's had donuts, not had a Yum Yum, I bet. No. And as well, like, just seeing her reaction to you saying, here's a Yum Yum, would be hilarious.
She might make a song.
She could. It sounds like a Beyonce song already, Yum Yum.
It does.
Something like Nicki Minaj would sing. Rap?
I have no experience.
I ain't down with the kids. But yeah, I'd get her Yum Yums. I'd get her a cheese bean sausage melt, again, because they are just elite level food. And this is where I start to struggle. Because if it was breakfast time, like I'm talking before 8, 9 a.m, it would be a bacon and cheese turnover. But I think that if you go to Greggs after 9 a.m, bacon and cheese turnovers, shite.
Yeah.
To be fair, any Greggs after 11,
Yeah.
shite.
Yeah.
It's like they give up in the afternoons, I think.
They do, don't they? Do they only do like one bake?
I think so. Well, no, because they're baking throughout the day, aren't they? But I feel like they just give up more in the afternoon. They're like, no one cares about Greggs in the afternoon, do they? You're not having Greggs for your fucking tea, are you?
But if you go first thing when it's just opened, you're guaranteed you've got fresh produce there.
Exactly.
But it's sporadic, the rest of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, oh, we're running out of yum-yums.
But Greggs does open really early, so to get there within that golden hour is hard. Hard for me.
When do they open?
It's like 6, innit?
I don't want to eat Greggs at 6 in the morning.
Unless I've already been up for a few hours.
I would question my choices. Like, go to bed.
Yeah.
Do better.
Why am I here?
Coming off a plane, though, at that time in the morning, that makes sense, because you're, like, a bit confused and you don't really know what life is anymore.
Me and Ben have always said, do you reckon you could eat your height in them custard cream donuts?
In one sitting, or across the space of
Nah,
3 weeks?
a sitting. So the donuts are as tall as you. So, like, you have to do, like, what?
Do go away pretty quickly.
Well, this is what I mean. Like, have you ever eaten one of them custard cream donuts and been like, fulfilled?
Yeah. No.
I know. So, like, I reckon I've got at least... I reckon I could easily eat 10. And then if you think how tall 10 donuts is, that's
Right.
surely going to be above knee level, innit? So I've maybe got 40 donuts to eat.
For next episode, we're going to go to Greggs and get some donuts. And stack them next to us, and we're going to have a little donut competition. But I don't think we should buy enough to make a total height, because that would be expensive and a waste of food.
Well, this is why I've never done this, because it's expensive, and as
Maybe
well,
we
you'd
can
feel
say-
shan for the next people going into Greggs, because I think you'd have to hit
take
more than one
more.
Greggs
Yeah.
as well. I don't think one Greggs would have enough.
No.
You'd have to go to a few.
What if we just went to Morrison's as well? Then we could kind of like up the ability to collect more.
What, do Morrison's have Greggs in them?
No, but they've got nice donuts.
No, they're not going to be the same ones as the Greggs ones, though. The whole
They're
point
pretty
is
much the
Greggs.
same.
I don't think I've ever bought donuts from Morrison's. Morrison's? Do you know what always nearly gets me, though? The cookies at the door. You know, when you walk in and they've got all the offers and stuff, and they always have those, like, baked cookies in the
I'm
in the
dying,
bags.
I'm so hungry.
We need to go make some tea.
I'm going to go and eat a butterfly. I wonder what they taste like. There's 2.
Well, we're not going to start this now, but a future question is, what type of insect would you be and why?
And what type of insects would you eat and why?
Exactly. We can just add it on. So I think on that note, we can probably close out this podcast. We've gone over an hour now.
Yeah, this is enough.
And I think that's about enough silly goosing for one day. We'll see you next time, whenever that may be.
See you later.
Bye.